right, you ready to go over the document you sent me?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. So, all right, we're gonna go over it. It's just a few sentences. It was kind of that like writing assignment we had talked about for fun.
Mhm.
So I thought it'd be nice to kind of review it live together. So I am in the document and we're in suggesting mode.
Mhm.
So that way there's kind of a record that you can look back at and it won't change it immediately or anything. It's suggestions. So you can decide if you want to keep them or not. Does that sound like a good way to do it?
It does.
Great. Okay. So you want to give me a little bit of context and tell me what you were writing about?
So I practiced writing using the phrasal verb is up. And then I was writing about, last year, what
Mhm.
happened and stuff, like briefly.
Great. All right, so thank you. So I'm gonna just so we know, I'm gonna kind of put that up here, right? So we know
Yep.
what we were aiming for. Okay. So since you wrote this and since it's short, I'd love if you don't mind reading it so I can kind of hear it in your voice. It's your story.
Absolutely. 2020 was quite a year in so many ways. Especially there were so many wildfires happening around the same time in summer here in the United States. I still remember the air quality was really bad, so we couldn't even open the windows at home for almost 2 months. Thankfully, after it snowed in September, wildfires eased up finally.
Great. All right. Thank you for reading. And so here's ease up, like you said. So that's great that you used it and you used it perfectly.
Yeah.
And then, it was just, again, the point wasn't to overwhelm with writing, but just kind of to practice using this word basically, and then also just a short writing assignment, just because it's helpful to practice.
Right.
So let's go sentence by sentence because I feel like that's the most helpful way to get feedback on writing.
Mhm.
Okay. So 2020 was quite the year in so many ways. All right. First of all, I completely agree. It was a very interesting year, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And perhaps not in always the best way, but it was definitely interesting. Okay. So then moving on, you said, especially there were so many wildfires happening around the same time in summer here in the US. Okay. So the meaning of what you wrote is really clear, but there are a
Mhm.
couple things I would suggest to make it come across a bit more naturally, right? So generally, I wouldn't start a sentence with especially because
Oh,
especially there were so many wildfires happening just doesn't quite sound natural. Like you would normally use especially kind of in partway into a sentence or something. So like I was especially happy to see you. I was really happy to see you.
hmm.
So sort of in that type of a context. Whereas if you just start a sentence with it, not supernatural. And then also, for example, if we're thinking especially kind of means like really, then really there were so many wildfires happening around the same time. So I think what you want to do is you were trying to add emphasis, right? That was your
Hmm.
goal of doing this word.
Right.
So it's a great word, but I would just recommend using it slightly different, like I said. So uh, I'm going to scroll over so you can see. So I was especially tired or something like that, like
Okay.
extra or really kind of that type of thing. So I would recommend using it more, not to start a sentence, but kind of in a similar way to this. Does that
Gotcha.
make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay. So since that's the case, if we decided to, maybe delete this word, then we could just start it with, there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So there were so many wildfires happening around the same time in summer here in the US. So yeah, there were. It was a rough summer.
Hmm.
So one thing is you wouldn't really capitalize summer here
Okay.
because this is you're not starting a sentence with it. Sometimes if you're in a school or a university and there's like spring semester, then it may be capitalized. But when you're just referring to a season in the middle like this, then there's no real reason to capitalize it,
Hmm.
right? So if you say like I like weather in the fall, then fall wouldn't be capitalized.
Okay.
Okay, not a proper noun or
Wait,
anything
wait.
like
In
that.
summer or in the summer?
So I think that you would, I mean, actually, you can go both ways. So
Okay.
around the same time in summer here in the US, they both work. So I wouldn't
Okay.
worry about that one too much.
Okay.
Okay, they're both natural. And then US, use the abbreviation. Sometimes you will also see this written with a period in between, but sometimes
Oh,
people
okay.
don't put it. So
Okay.
it's not, again, that's not a detail I would worry about too much because just depending on the person, you'll kind of see that or not, or depending on the
Mm-hmm.
writing style. Obviously, you could also spell it out, but what you did is fine there.
Okay.
So again, maybe not start with especially, and then there were so many wildfires happening around the same time in summer here in the US or in the summer here in the US. Both are
Okay.
correct. Okay.
Gotcha.
They both sound natural, is what I mean. All right. And then your next one. So I still remember the air quality was really bad. So we couldn't even open the windows at home for almost 2 months. Okay. I think
Perfect.
sounds good. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
definitely. Yeah. Thank you. And then thankfully, after it snowed in September, wildfires eased up finally. Okay. So in writing, I would always recommend spelling out the month.
Oh, okay.
This is good. You know the abbreviation, and that's wonderful. Another abbreviation that you'll often see is SEPT,
Okay.
so you could see either of those.
Mm-hmm.
However, in writing, it's more natural to actually spell it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I mean,
September.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we're just writing, the date on the top of the paper, sometimes people spell it out, sometimes not. If you're doing a Twitter post and you only have so many letters or something, but generally speaking, I would recommend actually writing out the date,
Mm-hmm.
or I mean the
Okay.
month. Okay.
Yep.
So thankfully, after it snowed in September, wildfires eased up finally. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here, I would recommend adding something before wildfires, right? So not just wildfires
The
eased up.
wildfires.
Yeah. I think it's
Oh,
good
okay.
to add the word the. So because you already mentioned wildfires, right? So now we know because here you referred to them the first time. So now we know it's the wildfires. So the ones you were referring to previously, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then generally speaking, wouldn't end with finally. Okay. And
Oh.
obviously your meaning is very clear here. So it's not a problem of, oh, I don't know what you're saying or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the wildfires, I think you would generally move this. So where do you think it sounds natural to move? So
Between
thankfully,
wildfires and east up.
that is my recommendation to you,
Okay.
right? Because think about it in terms of, if you're eating dinner, right? I ate my dinner finally, or I finally ate my dinner.
Mm.
So generally speaking, we're going to put that kind of before the verb,
Right, right.
right?
Okay, makes sense.
And again, it's not necessarily wrong per se, but
It's more natural. It sounds
I
more
that
natural.
that's what I think. It comes across as sounding a lot more natural.
Okay.
Okay. But you did a great job using, I mean, they're very minor things. Your point came across perfectly. You did a fantastic job using eased up. Any other ideas of eased up come to mind? And it's okay if not. I'm just curious.
What do you
Wildfires
mean?
was a
Like
great one.
similar words, like synonyms?
No, I mean, if you want to tell me some, sure, I'd love to hear. But I mean, another way to kind of use ease up. So wildfires could ease up. What else could maybe ease up?
Probably like if I get sick, I got some symptoms, but I can say symptoms eased up, got
Yep.
eased up, or just eased up.
Yeah, you would say eased. My
Up.
symptoms finally
Okay.
eased up, or something like
Gotcha.
that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So my symptoms eased up, something like this, right? Since ease up means to kind of get less severe, often we use it with sort of maybe like a negative thing, right? Because it was
Oh, okay.
bad, but it's easing up, it's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fantastic. Thanks for sending it to me, and thanks for reading it so I could hear it in your voice. That helps.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Talk soon.